Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to a Try a Chapter tag. I have many books on my TBR, there's at least 80, and that means I overlook kind of the smaller, less hyped ones. So I've got a stack here today and I want to read the first chapter and see kind of what my rating might be for them and see if I really will enjoy all of them. So the first one that I want to read is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. All I know about this one is that it's a young adult contemporary with a bit of a sci-fi twist, and the main character, I believe, is gay, but he wants to forget that he's gay. The next one on my list is All the Rage by Courtney Summers. I know that this deals with sexual abuse or potentially rape in this book, and it's also a contemporary YA. I really liked Sadie by Courtney Summers, so I'm keen to dive into some of her other work and see if I really enjoy this one as well. The next one I've got is Unwind by Neil Shusterman, and this has been in a couple of my quarterly TBR videos lately, and I thought I'd add it to this TBR to see if I kind of liked it, because I was going to unhaul it, but then I looked at all the Goodreads reviews for this one, and it turned out that it's got a really good rapport with Goodreads reviewers, so that made me hold on to it, and I have the entire series, so I want to do a deep dive into the first book and see if I enjoy it so that I can actually continue or unhaul the series. The next one I've got is The Golem and the Genie, and this is a book that I picked up without knowing anything about it whatsoever, and I got this because I met Brandon Sanderson a few years ago, and when I asked him what he was reading he said this. So I picked it up on good faith, thinking that he would potentially have enjoyed it, but not knowing actually what the rating was that he gave it. So I believe this is potentially a romance between a golem and a genie. And I don't usually read romance, but the fact that it's between two supernatural creatures is what intrigued me, so that's why I ended up buying it. And then lastly, I have An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I got sent this by a publisher ages ago. It was a complete surprise. I was not expecting it at all. I've since seen positive reviews for this one, and people have said that it really blew their minds and they didn't expect it to. I'm hoping that that means that I'll enjoy this one, because I want to like it, but I don't really read adult contemporary with a bit of a sci-fi twist very often. I tend to go more down the fantasy sci-fi route. So I'm just going to read the first chapter of all of these, and then I'm going to predict what star rating I'll give them, and then from that I'll decide whether I'm going to keep them or I'm going to unhaul them. So I just read the first 12 pages of An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, and I actually really like the tone of it. The main character is 20 years old, so it's more in my wheelhouse. It's not necessarily a YA with a 14 or 16-year-old protagonist, which is nice. And she's talking about being an artist, having an art degree, and living in New York City, and that's just something that's very relatable to me. As someone that's studied English and writing and wants to break into a particular industry, and I can see how her arts degree is making her really struggle and fight to do that. So this was actually a really nice surprise. I like this, I like the tone of it. The first chapter didn't really give too much of the plot away, other than I knew that this was going to be about a YouTuber who finds something huge and then goes viral, but she's actually not the YouTuber her friend is, and ends up filming her when she makes the discovery of something, and then they don't realise how big it's going to become. So I like the way that the premise was rolled out, I like the tone of the main character, and I think I'd give this about a 4 or 4.5 stars. So when I actually get around to reading it, it will be interesting to see if that rating is the same one that I end up giving it. Next up is The Golem and the Genie. Okay, so I've just had a flip through, and it turns out the first chapter is 24 pages long. That's a little bit long for me, but there are chapter breaks within the chapter. So I'm going to read up to the first chapter break, and that is about 4 pages long. Okay, so I've read the first 5 pages of this, and I read a little bit past the chapter break. It's so far about this man who's a real loner. He owns a business and he's not really very good looking, and he wants to find a wife. So he's going to this kind of mysterious alchemic kind of character, and he's getting him to make him a wife, and that wife is going to be the golem in this story. So I feel like we're very early on in the premise rather than starting out where the action is. So this seems like a really slow build kind of story, and I think I would enjoy it depending on what mood I'm in, but the mood I'm in now, I'm more inclined to put this down. So I think I need to pick this up when readathon season has passed. I'm doing my newts right now, so something like this would really set me back because it's really slow burning. After reading Hank Green's first chapter and then diving straight into this one, the tone of Hank Green's became a lot more clear to me, that it was more funny, more open to satire, more self-deprecating and more self-aware. But this is very old fantasy kind of prose. It's very descriptive, it's very candid, and I don't think this is something that I want to read straight away. So I have got this on my priority list to read this year, so I wanted to finish it this year, but I'm just going to see if I can actually properly start it this year. Or if I don't start it, I'll probably either shelve it for a while or unhaul it. So this, I'd probably predict that I'd give it about a 3 or 3.5 stars, so not as high as the Hank Green book. Next we've got Unwind, and I'm a little bit excited about this one because I keep putting it off and I can't wait to actually see what all the hype is about. The first chapter is 18 pages long. Why can't we just have a book that has short chapters? Okay, so I read 8 pages of this one because there was a chapter break in there, and this is definitely very dark. It does live up to those reviews saying that it's quite a dark book because Connor, the main character, is going to be unwound in this book, which means his body is going to be donated, and he's basically going to donate all his organs, and doing so will mean that he'll cease to exist. And the way he realizes this, his parents actually haven't told him yet, but he actually found tickets that they booked to the Bahamas for the mum, the dad, and his younger brother, and then none for him. So he's getting unwound and then they go on vacation. So it's kind of an extra kick to the gut really, and he's planning on running away with his girlfriend. Sorry if you can hear the crows in the background, but they're going bananas outside, so hopefully my microphone isn't picking them up. The tone of this is very YA, and I mean that in the sense that I can get a sense of how young Connor is and how young he feels and how vulnerable he is. So this would definitely be a very fast-paced read for me given the tone of the main character, because I can just get through this kind of book in a very quick way. I reckon my rating would be close to a 3.5 to a 4 stars maybe. Depending on how much this surprises me, that could potentially bump it up to a 4.5 or a 5. Probably won't be unhauling this anytime soon. I will try and read this one as well. This is just going to turn into a video of me deciding to keep all of the books that I'm going to be talking about. Just you watch. The next one that I'm going to read is All the Rage by Courtney Summers. Do people take the dust jackets off their hardcovers to read them? Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. This one really hooked me. I just finished reading the 7 pages, and it's partly told in a bit of a flashback to the main character at a party when she's really drunk, and she gets herself into a situation that she can't get out of and a boy takes advantage of her. And then you flash forward to a different tone of voice with her narration, and the font actually changes so you can tell the difference of when it flips over. And she's waking up on the side of a dirt road and someone is standing over her and she doesn't know how she got there or who he is. And then it's going to flip to the next chapter, which is however many weeks earlier. So this is very much in the vein of Sadie. It's kind of mystery seeming, and I've heard that this one will make you angry when you read it, so I think that makes sense considering it's got rage in the title. But I like this so far. I'm not usually a contemporary person, but I think Courtney Summers has managed to crack into my brain because I really liked Sadie, and this one is probably going to be no different. I reckon I'd give this about a 4 stars or 4.5. Again, depending on how much it surprises me, like with Unwind, because I tend to predict YA and I predict plot twists. I just can't help it. I wish I couldn't because it would make so many more things enjoyable to me, but if I don't predict what happens in this one, then I will like it a lot more. And now we're on to the last book in this Try a Chapter tag, and this is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I've actually read another book by him and given it 5 stars, and I haven't read History Is All You Left Me yet, and I have this one on my TBR as well, so I thought I might try this one to see how much I like it, because I don't want to assume that I'm going to love all his books just because I gave one of them 5 stars, and I want to like the rest of what he's written as well. And I believe he's coming out with a young adult fantasy at the end of this year or something, so I might jump on board with his writing, see if I like more of his work, and then if I do, I'll pick up that fantasy by him as well. So the first chapter of this is only a couple of pages long. I think it's like 6, so that should be pretty quick to get through. I don't know if I necessarily have words for what I just read. I read about 8 pages of this, and the writing is going to be interesting, and I can see that there's a lot of space to unpack emotions and grief and regret and sorrow. So it's not going to be an easy book to read. The main character has just lost his father, and they still have to live in the apartment that his father took his life in, so they keep getting accosted by all the memories of him when he was alive. And in this book there's also a company called Litio, or a procedure called Litio, and that helps you remove your memories so you completely forget. And one of his friends, to prove that Litio worked, his whole family got their memories wiped and then moved towns for a fresh start because the younger brother in this family was gunned down in an act of violence. So all of them wanted to forget that, and they did, and then moved on. So you can see that the main character is wanting to do the same thing about his father, but you're not quite sure how it's going to unfold. Oh, I didn't mention it, but I'd probably potentially give More Happy Than Not 4.5 to 5 stars. I think it's got the potential to be a really, really good read. So with that said, I think I'm probably going to keep all of these books, and I thought that that might be the way that this video turned out, but I was just doing it just in case. I don't know how I feel about The Golem and the Genie. I think I could get rid of that one and not be too sad about it, but I want to read a little bit more of it. Probably 50 to 100 pages or 10% of it to really see if I like it or not. Because it's a slow burn, I think it would take a little bit of time to build up and get going. So I don't want to write it off just yet because I've only read a tiny little snippet of it. But yeah, if you've read any of these, please let me know what you rated them in the comments. I would be really interested to hear what you thought of them. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.